Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives, and welcome to another edition of McDuff and Marcia.
Good
Marcia,
morning, everybody.
Marcia's
Welcome.
joining us again for a Friday live chat, and you guys know Marcia. That's my beautiful wife, and
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and Marcia's so kind of you to make so much time for us here at McDuff Lives on Fridays, and I know you're very busy with many things, but.
But aren't we all?
Well, that's true. We all are. There's Rick Olson checking in. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Rick. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, this is your time if you want to chat with us. We have the chat room open on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. So fire away if you got something on your mind. I understand that Trump's sentencing, the big unknown, has finally happened, and as promised, Judge Meechin sentenced him to was it called a discharge?
Discharge, unconditional discharge.
Unconditional discharge. Okay.
hmm
I never got one of those from my clients when I was going to court. It was the
Well,
best I got was probation before judgment or something. We used to call it a PBJ. Where
yeah,
the
well,
judge would say, "Well, okay, you're guilty, but I'm not going to enter guilty until you do your probation. And if you do it all right, then we won't call you guilty." That's pretty good. But I guess what the judge was stuck with a real political problem in that nobody nobody wanted Trump to go to jail except for the real extremists.
or even have his probation officer coming to visit once a week at the White House.
I know, yeah. Well, of course, he'd have to probably do a urinalysis and stuff too. So that
Yeah, that could be weird.
see, now that's probably the bottom line, is that they don't want to put any future presidents in that position because, boy, can you imagine urinalysis or any real analysis of what drugs are in our national leadership? What's Nancy Pelosi take? What does Schumer take? I mean, and not to mention Elon and all of the crazy, the Silicon Valley geniuses that
Indeed.
sit in their offices playing computer games and then writing deadly warfare programs for the DARPA. I mean, and like Harley Schlanger told us on Tuesday when we talked to Harley. He said most of those big financial meetings where they hash things out there's piles of cocaine everywhere, and just these are the people that we entrust our future to.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy.
Very crazy. Yeah. So Trump won't have any jail time or fines or probation of any kind.
No, and the whole thing's going to get thrown out as soon as it gets to the Supreme Court. I wouldn't doubt, or even before that.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy thing.
Yes. Yes. Well, actually, I guess I shouldn't say this, but I just want it to go away.
Thank you.
It's just a huge distraction.
Absolutely.
And that is it has nothing to do with what I believe about what really happened, and what really happened. Was it ethical, legal, appropriate? No, none of that has any connection to my desire to just make this go away because it is a distraction.
Thank you. And a distraction, a calculated distraction
Yes.
that could have very well changed the election if enough people had
it been successful.
had this psyop been successful.
Right.
We're learning a lot about psyops this year, aren't we?
And look how young the year is.
I know, my goodness. Our friend Nick Potowski had a comment on what's going on. He said, it was tactical strikes during negotiation or something like that. In other words, there are these two sides that I picture, fighting it out to be the king of the hill in terms of, AI and everything else to do with our future. and one side and the other that they haven't agreed on everything yet. So see this horrible fire as a a uh, a tactical use of fire as described in an ARPA handbook that Nick pointed us to that says it's a military use of forest fire. And, military using forest fire as a weapon, published in 1970 as part of ARPA, which now is DARPA. And, does that tell us anything? Only that it's possible, that it's possible that these horrible fires are, man-made. And, but, that's just speculation.
It is. It is. And I think, as we've talked about before, I look at the Washington Post on a regular basis, even if it's just to look at what their headlines are saying, because I think that their headlines are a good indication of the spin they're trying to put on everything. And one of the spins that they are employing is articles about how these fires get started and how the Santa Ana winds will flame the fires. And, it seems like an effort to not justify, but an effort to plant in our minds that this is nature.
Yeah, and it could be nature. I mean, but it's so weird. The timing of it and everything else. It's like, okay, Trump's going to be the president. We're all screwed, but let's see if we can make a deal before the axe falls. I don't know. Well, it's a horrible thing, and we send our thoughts and prayers out to all the victims and the homeless people that have lost everything. It's whether they're eventually going to get it back, who knows? I mean, if you look at what happened to people after Katrina and after the Maui fires and in Western North Carolina and Tennessee, I think there's a lot of people that are not going to get it back.
Well, just the numbers. When you talk about even Katrina, I mean, yes, I don't know. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look how many people were displaced during Katrina. I suspect that the numbers are comparable. But at this point, with the fires, you don't know because the fires are still raging. I mean, I am stunned when I read that the Eaton fire is still not at all contained.
You would think with all of the capacities of our military that we could send ships to the shore with the range, the range of that artillery has. You can fire artillery from a ship. I don't know how far right now, but probably 100 miles easy.
Well, I think you could do that for the Palisades fire. I don't think you could do it for the Eaton fire. It's too far.
Well, I don't know how far it is, but
it's far.
The idea that they can't get water out of the ocean, which is right next door, is really kind of galling and makes you wonder if all of this isn't planned, some planned redevelopment plans that somebody has.
Possibly. I know. And I know you mentioned it yesterday. I mean, we have a personal stake in all of this,
yeah.
And that our nephew has lost his home in Altadena. And, I just can't even begin to imagine. And my heart breaks for him.
Yeah.
And I continue to pray for him and to think about what he and his wife and their little 4-year-old son are going to do. And, how they're going to rebuild, because they're one of thousands and thousands who are all in the same position. So temporary housing is going to be limited. Resources of all kinds are going to be limited. Mental health resources to help people deal with the trauma.
Yeah.
Just all of the resources that are going to be needed to rebuild. When entire neighborhoods have been leveled, it's just beyond my comprehension.
And Charles, of course, yes, we add our prayers to yours, to Peter Duke and his family.
Indeed.
Man-made drought conditions. Yeah, that I agree with. I've been watching that for years. Like Mount Shasta used to be completely snow-covered, and I don't know what the condition right now is though, but it's been going on a long, long time that Southern California just doesn't get the water that you would think it would get. And I've done shows on the whole idea of selling your rainwater. Like, did California sell its rainwater to Oklahoma and Arizona for fracking? If you can do it with planes, if you can do it, and I think you can, then you can dry out Southern California and send the water on east to where the fracking wells are in Texas and Oklahoma. And then those people make a whole lot of money, and then they pay off the California people that sold the rainwater secretly against the will of the people.
Well, whatever. I mean,
anything's possible,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But man-made drought is certainly part of it. And,
Indeed.
Well, we could talk about chemtrails and HARP, but that would be all day long, I think, because it's hard to understand that stuff, and I'm not sure I've got the competence to really address chemtrails and HARP in a short thing. But my favorite source for weather manipulation is Jim Lee, and he is at climateviewer.com, I believe. And I think he's the one that has the best scientific depth and understanding of, what they do, what they can do, and what they cannot do, and why they do it. So,
right.
Jim Lee, I would refer.
There you go.
Hello, Prester. Prester John says major insurance companies canceled homeowners insurance policies and pulled out of California in 2023, 2024. Compounded by major cuts to fire department services in Los Angeles. Yeah. And I've seen people contest that about the cuts to fire department services. My friend Shirley, who's the great pianist and singer that I've worked with up in New York, a few years ago, Shirley said that the reservoirs were full for the fire hydrants, and they had not cut their budget for the fire departments. So,
and that's what they're saying. Absolutely, that the authorities are saying the reservoirs were full when it started, but we cannot refill them as quickly as we are draining them, and that's the problem. When it started, they had the water, but as the fire grew, as new fires broke out, they drained their water, and they were using the water faster than they can refill the reservoirs.
And yeah, it looks intentional to me, Charles, but again,
right? Who knows?
And this is this is an example. If Nick Petoskey is right, that this is a tactical maneuver in an ongoing war within our secret, elite.
Right.
That I lost my thought. With an ongoing war within our secret elite.
Well, we were talking about the water,
yeah,
and the water resources, and then the intentional, Charles' comment here, intentional empty resources. Yeah.
Well, let's move on. Rick says they did build something, can't quite finish that. Here it is.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't build water reclamation system from rain and snow, and funding in Ukraine is seen as more important. Yeah.
And Israel, of course. We have to fund Israel so they can commit their genocide.
There is the Schiller and LaRouche folks have illustrated a very, very interesting concept of creating a water source, a new water source coming down from Alaska and Canada, flowing downward into the United States and California in particular. That,
for what it's worth,
well, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
That would provide water for the human population everywhere. The trouble apparently is, it's like that land is already owned by people and they have dreams for it and they want to, some of it has lots of great gold and minerals and stuff underneath it. And so it's not happening. But with engineering, I think all of these problems really could be solved if we had a national will to solve them. Now, what were you going to say?
It was relevant now, but yeah, I think, there are challenges in deciding who are the priorities. Is the priority to relocate resources from one place to another because the receiving place has more value than the sending place? I don't know. Relocating resources to me seems to be a little bit, I don't know, elitist.
Well, if it's a glacier, I mean, who cares? Just take some more water from the glacier.
Yeah, but if it's my glacier and I have plans for this glacier, then, I don't want you taking it so that those people over there in the desert can have my water.
Hey, you get off my glacier.
That's right.
No, that's what we always wanted to do, is go walk on the glacier over in Iceland.
I know, we never did
We
that.
haven't done that yet, so we have to get back.
Oh, I like how you say that. We haven't done it yet.
We haven't done it yet.
I would love to go walk on a glacier.
Yeah.
I think that would be just very exciting. Kind of like when we went to the Arctic Circle that time, when we went up to Grimsby and, just to say, I have been north of the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, where's Grimsby? He's around here
He's
somewhere.
right there on the shelf, all the way to the far left. Top shelf, not the highest shelf. No, one down. No, the other way. That's Grimsby right there.
Oh, this guy?
Yeah, that's your little puffin. Little puffin named Grimsby.
There he is. This is the real Grimsby.
Okay.
This guy came from.
Oh, okay. Yes.
This guy actually
That's the
came
puffin.
from Iceland.
Iceland, yes.
When we traveled there in 2016. Yeah.
No, 18.
2018.
Yeah, that's when we went up to the north. Was August of 18.
And why are they not seeding clouds to put out the fire? Well, I think it had to do with the wind. There was the 100-mile-an-hour wind. It's like how, but on the other hand, why don't they try? Who knows?
Maybe there weren't any clouds to seed.
Charles is referring to the LaRouche plan, and it's called NAWAPA, the NAWAPA plan.
NAWAPA.
Yeah, it looks good on paper anyway.
I like that. NAWAPA. That sounds like something you say when you're excited.
Yeah.
NAWAPA, let's go. Sorry.
David and Goliath says, our friend Can Direct. Good morning, Can. The bigger you are, the harder you fall.
Yeah. By the way, should we mention we're having some work done in the house? So when you hear hammering and banging.
That's what was distracting me a minute ago.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, what's that noise? Oh, yeah, that's the hammering. Oh, what
Right.
was I thinking? I can't remember. That's okay. Hammer away, guys.
Exactly.
And that's true, Pastor John. Some parts of the country, it's illegal to catch rainwater. It's true.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Why would that be?
I think that, the governments like to keep their rainwater in reservoirs, and I don't know. I can't remember the reason, but it's a good, solid reason.
I'm sorry, coming from a broadcasting background, if the airwaves belong to the public, the flippin' rainwater belongs to the public. Keep your government hands off my rainwater.
Thank you very much. Yep. It happens. The government is behind it all. This is true. But, the government, again, embraces this internal war that I talk about, the one big power structure versus another big power structure. And,
right.
Think of the PayPal mafia on one side and Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum on the other side.
Well, yes, exactly. But who's behind it? Which one of those sides is behind it? Because there are advantages to each depending on how you want to spin it.
That's why I bring in the Getty property, because that Getty,
has that gone? Because I read
the museum survived. What happened to the rest of the acreage? I don't know.
Okay. I was going to say, because I read that it had survived.
It did. I
that
think
there are some rumors going around that various high-profile properties in the Palisades had been destroyed, but not all of those are true. Some have not.
Yeah, well, this, as we were talking with David Cranmer Underdown yesterday, the Getty family has a long and dark history, and is related to the Newsoms.
One of my cousins dated a Getty years and years and years ago.
North America Water, that's it. Oh, Kennedy administration, 1962.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And another loss from losing President Kennedy.
Yep.
These things are doable. We just do not have the public will to support the internal infrastructure of this country, because all of our money is getting siphoned off to, for people's, supposedly more important projects, like controlling some land halfway around the world, which is completely un-American. If you look at the founding fathers and what they were saying, no, we're not going to go over there and try to sort out what's wrong over in Europe or Asia or anywhere else. We're going to take care of ourselves.
Right.
And that is the American spirit. And so both of these imperial blobs are violating the American spirit.
Yes.
And so that's one of the points I would love to be able to make to my liberal friends, is to say, look, you rightfully vilify the empire that was built around the 19th century and was reinforced in the 20th century by people like J. Edgar Hoover, like the Dulles brothers, like all of the right-wing baddies. Okay, you're absolutely right. They are evil. Okay, but you're failing to look at the other side with the same jaundiced eye that you look at the first empire, because the second empire is not only is it taking over the first empire, but it's taking over the whole damn world.
Right.
And to give somebody like Biden a pass is criminal. It's insane.
That's where the danger is, and that's where we have gone. And this bifurcated dialogue that we continue to have is that there is good and there is bad, and which one is which. But once you choose sides, then you're always going to start from the point of view that my side is good and your side is bad. So whatever my side does is right, and whatever your side does is wrong. And life just isn't that simple. It to me is so tragic that people are so short-sighted and so gullible.
And that's why President Washington warned us not to have political parties.
Right.
Because these political parties are nothing more than organized gangs and blackmail services. And they will do whatever is necessary to win. And that's why we don't know what's going to happen on January 20th yet, because, the people that are on the Bill Gates, Nancy Pelosi side, these guys are scared shitless of what Trump's going to do. So they may still pull something now or at the inauguration, which is a real concern for me.
I would be so surprised.
Oh,
I would be very surprised.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't think that that's their MO.
I don't know. I think a lot of people were surprised when President Kennedy was shot.
Well, of course.
And so it's not unprecedented.
No, it's not unprecedented. You're right.
Smart LA 2024 says Garden Girl. Hello, Garden Girl. Clearing land for redevelopment. Yeah, the smart cities. The smart cities thing is, LA is supposed to become a smart city in, I guess, 2028 or sometime in the near future. So maybe this is all part of clearing land to, do that infrastructure. Who knows?
Yeah, a lot of speculation.
Right, but the plan is there, the smart LA, and I haven't studied it, but that's a rabbit hole we could all jump down and see what the plan is for LA.
Well, first of all, you can't just take people's land.
Yeah, you can.
No,
If you're the government, you can.
no.
You fought that battle in your career.
I did. I did. And you have to have valid reasons, community reasons for doing it. It's called eminent domain. And in order to use eminent domain, you have to have a community need. And I don't think for building smart cities, you can use eminent domain broadly. That would be in the courts forever.
One hopes so.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying in that one.
It happens. The empire is controlling what we think, how we live, where we live, what we believe. They want to.
They're trying, and they're controlling many, many people. You are so right. It happens. So many people are just willing to believe and willing to immediately embrace whatever their trusted authorities are telling them, whether it's the empire or the representatives of the empire who don't even realize that they're representatives of the empire, or the ones that do.
I think when we talk about this, I think about the churches and the
Ooh,
churches
yeah.
all around the country. You know, there used to be a time when we looked up to our local religious authority, whatever religion you were, but generally a community had the same religion, 300 years ago. But to look up to that person as a really educated person, somebody that could give you some insight into difficult problems. And the same thing with a judge in a court. You used to think, well, these judges are judges because they're really wise people. It's not because they paid a bunch of money to the political party of their choice. It's because they're really wise people. It's not because, they are anticipated to favor somebody in some big lawsuit. It's because they're really smart. They really have, internalized all kinds of important things and, can help. And judges used to make speeches at the end of cases saying, well, here's what we can learn from this case. And, the community, respected them. Of course, most
Sure.
of the community didn't have a whole lot of education. And so they were farmers, or they were housekeepers, or they were doing something else that occupied their time, 10, 12 hours a day. So they needed to have some guidance. They knew they needed to have some guidance, and the whole community would trust the guidance coming from one of these, important figures that are respected. And to politicize our judges has been a horrible thing.
Yes.
But also what's happened with all of our religions is that they've all shut the hell up. It used to be that people, especially Baptists, but all kinds of Protestant people became political because the church, the Roman Catholic Church, was suppressing their rights and interfering with their inability to worship as they wanted to. So they became active and they said things. And ultimately, things weren't worked out in America, so we had a civil war. And, the religious people were leaders in that civil war. That, to me, has gone away along with President Washington's warning about parties, is that we no longer have, our local Baptist church standing up for the people, but rather just dispensing a bunch of palliative language,
Hoo-ha.
here's a biblical quote for you to think about, as you watch California burn.
Right.
Mm.
Right. Well, and I think too that our trusted voices have become our media celebrities. And, there's danger in that too, because they don't always have the education and maybe the intellect to act in our best interest or to properly interpret the world for us. And, what you're saying is that farmer needed the judge to interpret the world for him.
Yeah.
And I think that the ones that we trust now, even our politicians, they really don't have the credentials to be interpreting the world for us. But that's who everybody trusts.
And many won't be able to rebuild restricted permitting in California Elon Musk made a comment about that on X this morning, saying, let's just see how long it takes people to get the permits to rebuild.
Well, I thought about that because, again, going back to our nephew, he started building an accessory dwelling unit on his property. So really what he did was converted his garage to a little studio apartment. And that process began probably, I'm trying to think, it must have been, I think he moved into that house in 2021, maybe. And the process of converting the garage, let's just guess, it began in 2022.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure exactly when it was. That garage only became habitable this past year. It was sometime in the spring or summer of 2024. So it took at least 2 years by the time he got through the permitting and approvals process and then got the construction done and then got the UNO, if that's what they call it out there in California. It took forever. And the biggest holdup every time I asked was that permitting process. So yeah, now, and that's just a little, 400 square foot garage, trying to rebuild thousands of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 square foot homes, luxury homes, as well as ordinary homes that are more like 15 to 2,000 square feet. It's going to be a massive, massive project that, again, California doesn't have the infrastructure, or LA County, I should say, doesn't have the infrastructure to support.
Yeah, well, maybe they can just borrow some more money from CalPERS, the state retirement plan. Ooh.
Yep.
Love to would love to have John look further into that. You're referring to the question of whether the government can stop people from collecting rainwater on their own land. Yeah. And I've heard that, 2 or 3 years ago. I think there was a famous case in Montana, maybe, or Idaho, but I haven't looked into it recently. It's be nice to know what's going on right now. I don't know. Man-made drought, absolutely part of this. I agree. Does not seawater flow into the Pacific instead of being used? Yes,
non-seawater. In other words, the stuff
non-seawater.
that's coming from the mountains and through the
Right.
rivers.
Yeah, that's the other incredible thing that they've pointed out is that, and they, the right wings laughs at the environmentalists for prohibiting this water on the grounds that it might make a certain little fish go extinct. The classic environmental snail darter case from the 1970s, which I remember very well because I was in law school and we always had to talk about the snail darter case in Tennessee. But that's possible. I don't know if that's what stopped it or not, but you see a lot of people saying, hey, but why did they decide to dump all the great drinking water into the salt water of the Pacific? It's, again, California is really kind of.
But is that where they get their drinking water, or are they getting it from the aquifers like we do? We don't get our drinking water from the rivers. We get it from the aquifers.
You remember the story of Chinatown, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's the viaduct and
coming
from
the water mountain being rediverted from the mountains. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jera is here. Jera Millie, a little late watching, was languishing at Steph Miller's chat. I don't know Steph Miller. And here is Canvac. You have to hydrate on a regular basis in order to be able to use reservoirs in those conditions. And yep, Charles is once again on Nawapa all the way down to Mexico. Yeah, it really does look like a great idea if you want to have a flourishing population and economy and everybody healthy. I think that would be a good thing to do. But, as we see in so many ways, our population is under attack. And depriving us of good, clean water is certainly one of the things. I saw again this morning actually a picture of the great aquifer underneath of Brazil and Paraguay and Uruguay and in South America. It's like it's huge. It's like it's bigger than probably Texas and three or four more states. It's really huge, and all of it is owned by the Bush family.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they own it. And of course you've heard about Nestle, buying up all the water and bottling it and selling it to us in, plastic bottles that of course never, ever, ever deteriorate.
Right.
And meanwhile, we're wondering why in your analysis, we've all got a certain amount of PCBs in our urine.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd that come from?
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. Basic engineering. Yeah. People that are engineers would like to solve this problem right away. They say, oh, hey, just let me take care of it. They know, they see how to solve problems. It's just the politicians, for some reason, don't want the problem solved. And Garden Girl points out a failure to do control burns. And that's something that was pointed out about like the Pine Barrens in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
They do control burns there every year. And that, is part of their fire management. Why don't they do that in California? I don't know. I don't have a grasp on how to manage forests to avoid forest fire. It's probably different in every environment, but.
And you know what else? Avoiding forest fire is not necessarily nature's intent.
Yeah.
Nature creates forest fires because there needs to be some regeneration from time to time. You can't let everything turn into a mature forest because that then messes with the ecosystem. You need some forests that are being regenerated on a regular basis, and that's why nature starts forest fires. But again, I'm like you, that's as much as I know. I know I can't speak on it intelligently for too long.
Rain and snow runoff is wasted. That's the basic bottom line, is why they're pouring all this water into the ocean instead of collecting it and, build a new reservoir. Come on, have a big, huge reservoir to fill the fire hydrant reservoir when the fire hydrant reservoir goes dry. How hard is it to think of that?
Well, but think about how much water the community is consuming. Here we go again with my froggy throat. Excuse me. I don't know what the population of Los Angeles metro area is, but, there's millions of households using millions of gallons of water every day, more than what we use because they have to water their lawns. You got to have those lush green lawns.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about a massive population who is living a lifestyle that requires tons and tons of water. They might be using all of that rainwater and snow melt, but they're using it.
But all of it's you see the pictures of all these, huge volumes of water just pouring off the coast into the ocean, coming from their diversion projects. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it.
Yep.
We sent a fire truck from California to Ukraine, says Brightmore. Good morning, Brightmore. Okay, I'm sure we sent a lot more than a fire truck.
Not in my glacier hood.
Yeah, I think really this is another argument for Greenland, isn't it? They got tons of glaciers, and we could just
but
we could move Hollywood to Greenland.
Okay, I'm having trouble imagining that. Oh. No, I'm still with Prester John. I'm thinking about the old man who yells at the kids saying, "You kids get off of my lawn." I'll be that old lady who yells, "You kids get off of my glacier hood."
And Can Detect has some patents for us. Okay, thank you, Can. HR Puffin Stuff. I don't remember anybody by that name, but
That's a fictional character, I believe.
But I hope so. All the water you need is right off the Santa Monica Pier. Yep. Aluminum nanoparticles. Yes, they are. And aluminum nanoparticles are incendiary.
Mm.
Yeah. And, you see this thing called chaff, the military, they dropped what they used to say was pieces of aluminum foil, little pieces of aluminum foil. But at this point, they've got it down to nanoparticles. But, that screws up radar. You use that as a military tool to do things without getting shot down by the other guy's missiles.
Mm-hmm.
So then they practice that stuff, and they practiced it over California. And there's weathermen, have reported, look at this. This is chaff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it interferes with the rain, and it's poisonous. Yep. Seawater can fight fires. Why not?
Right.
Yeah, converted and potable seawater. Why haven't we moved forward on converting seawater to drinkable water? I think they do it in Israel. They do it some places.
Yeah,
in the world,
desalinization.
but it's apparently it's expensive.
Yeah.
But like everything, the more you build, the less expensive it is.
I'm told that our county is considering it.
Right here in Charles County.
Yep. I am told by my friend who keeps very close tabs on county government operations.
Yeah.
And she was saying there is discussion. They are doing a feasibility study of building a desalinization plant in Charles County because, we are using up our aquifer. We're using our water faster than it's being regenerated. Yeah. And we're not a huge population. People don't realize how small our population is to be a suburb of Washington, D.C. Our county only has a population of, I believe it's now at around 170,000. But we're building, we're building fast and furiously.
Yeah.
And we're using up the aquifers. And so there is discussion of buying, well, they buy water from Prince George's County, which is just to the north of us. But also there's problems with getting that water to the more southern parts of the county. The further you transport it, the less clean it is. And so they're looking to do a desalinization plant to help release some of the load and the demand on the aquifer.
It's called the Developers Relief Project.
Exactly. But projects like that, we hear things like that. We think, oh, there's going to be a desalinization plant in a few years. No, things like that take 20, 30 years. It's not going to happen in our lifetime. And, those kinds of discussions all over the place, not just here, but in California, especially where they do have to deal with water. And why didn't they start talking about it 50 years ago?
All right, we've identified a glacier as Marcia Glacier.
Thank you.
Glacier Marcia.
That's right.
And everybody just keep your hands off.
That's right. Leave my glaciers alone.
They want rainwater for aquifers too.
That's a very good point.
And that has something to do with keeping your own rainwater, because
right.
if you own 100 square miles of Montana and grab all the water off it for your cows, and it doesn't run down the stream to the aquifer
or seep down into the ground. Yeah.
Then that's right. New song by Ringo Starr and Molly Tuttle.
What an interesting combination.
That's cool. Yeah.
I got to hear that.
If you guys haven't seen Molly Tuttle yet, check her out. She's a great guitarist and a great entertainer, and somebody with a very interesting personal story about losing all of her hair when she was young to a cancer, I think, or something.
No, it's some kind of a disease whose name I'm not going to be able to
But
say.
Anyway, she looks terrific, and she's she's really got the chops, just like, Tommy Emmanuel or all of these other great guitarists. A lot of fun to watch Molly Tuttle and Ringo Starr with her. Interesting.
Yeah, Mary Chapin Carpenter wrote a great song called Girls with Guitars. Love that song.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's about girls playing guitars and how people see girls with guitars and they think, well, they can't be that good. But
Can't
Molly,
grow food. Oh, sorry.
go ahead. No, ahead. I was just going to say Molly Tuttle proved them wrong.
Yeah, and she has a whole band too. There's a great bass player, guitar backup. It's not all men. In other words, there's a lot of great women that are part of her band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's true, Scott, or I should say, Can Direct is our friend Scott, who's the inventor and producer of Allison V, which is a very, very hopeful and I think, to me at least, a probably effective product. Who can say? Okay, but I've been using it for over a year, and I'm in great health. So, thank you, Scott, and everybody. Follow Scott on X. He's always publishing interesting stuff, especially if you are a biologist or a scientist, that you can see the incredible detail with which he is able to work in these spike cells, the spike proteins and things with his Allison V, goes in there like a little Pac-Man and eats up the bad stuff.
That's one of the things that I find so amazing is that there are a lot of very smart people out there, and having this connection that we have to smart people is just, it's fun because I learn stuff. I learn stuff from you guys all the time.
And hello, William. Dan Dix, Press for Truth, also into salination. New song. It happens, or the government is behind it all. Okay. Yeah, the government.
It happens. And sometimes, that goes back to that saying that you're always making. It happens, and you let it happen on purpose. Or,
yeah, my hop and lie hop.
Yep. And make it happen on purpose. Yep.
Garden Girl. Did anyone watch Jimmy Carter's funeral? I did not. Did you?
I didn't. But there was an article this morning in the Post about the body language of the presidents and vice presidents who all attended, and when a president dies, all the living presidents and vice presidents sit together at the funeral. So you had Trump and Obama and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Gores, and even I think the Quayles were there, and the current and president and vice president and their spouses. The picture I saw, it was interesting. All their spouses were with them except for Michelle Obama, but who cares? Anyway, but yeah, it was all about the body language and how they came in and greeted each other or didn't greet each other, and how there was a chilliness towards Trump. It was, and they had video. It was interesting.
Remember when Trump had his first inauguration, and there was Lady Gaga among the people, the prominent people walking on. I think she was even walking on the red carpet with them. But she had this huge dove jewelry. It's this jewelry thing, a big old dove on her shoulder, and it's when I saw that, I said, "Oh, they made peace." That the two sides have finally, okay, they're going to let Trump be the president, but they've made some kind of a deal, and so she's saying to everybody, calm down, we got it, we've closed the deal. That's the way I remember that, and I think there's going to be a moment like that in the inauguration, where all of the people, are looking for a signal, saying, is our team still fighting, or is our team going to stand down and let this happen?
Yeah, but no matter what they said in 2016, it wasn't what they did.
No, but they let the inauguration happen, and then they went right back to.
Yeah, they immediately started attacking him and trying to impeach him, and successfully impeaching him. Weird. It was a very weird 4 years.
U.S. government captured by the corporate sector. Yes. Yeah. And, my only question is, who owns the corporate sector? And let's go back behind that and look at all the oligarchs, because that's, the oligarchs and the old money from the old, the royals, the empire, all of that. They're all still very, very wealthy and behind the scenes. And, it's very convenient to have a corporate, shield between you and the people that might want to sue you.
Right. Well, you know what? That's where the money is. And money talks, as you said, was it just yesterday you pointed out our conversation about Godfather and everything's for sale, and our government is certainly for sale because the corporations have the resources to pump tons and tons of money into candidates and politicians. And so they get priority attention from our elected officials, not the people who elect them.
All right. And the desal plants go in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Not on the shoreline. Ringo and Molly save the day, redeeming Appalachia and Liverpool. Wow. That's a good combination. Redeeming Appalachia. I just I can't get rid of the idea that Hurricane Helene, aside from a resource play, to get land under where the minerals are under the mountains, is also an attack upon the traditional Appalachian culture, and to just try to wipe that out of our national narrative, or just to minimize it as much as possible, because that is really built around individual rights and the people that I spoke about before, those Baptists that picked up their brown vests and went to the front after the mass. Or after
The heritage
after
of
the
our
church.
incoming VP.
Oh yeah, yeah. So again, that's a hopeful sign that maybe one day people will start valuing their Appalachian traditions that the whole country should enjoy, instead of building a damn parkway and getting rid of all the culture in the mountains. Well, they didn't get rid of it all.
No.
Ringing strings loudly.
Mm.
The Getty Villa is in Palisades. The new Getty Museum is inland on 405. The Getty Villa may have been affected. Thank you, Rick. The documentary, hi Prester, the documentary titled "The Corporation" made it very clear who U.S. intelligence agencies work for. Wall Street. Yeah,
I'd be interested in watching that documentary. I'll have to Google that and see where it's available.
Yeah, I wonder who produced it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, when I say Sullivan and Cromwell and the Dulles brothers, that's what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And then you look at ARPA and DARPA, we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are Pentagon programs,
Mm-hmm.
And who controls the Pentagon? The guys with the money, of course.
Right.
Let's see. Did I lose my place? I hope not. I've been doing so good today. We've been getting through a lot of the comments.
I know. This is great. This is great. There's just so many great comments.
But I did something. I pushed something and then I lost my place. Let's see.
Well, just pick up somewhere.
Why does Trump saying he might use military to acquire Greenland, Canada, Panama Canal sound like the New World Order consolidating territories? Because that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and I find myself feeling like I'm over this. I'm on the slippery slope of thinking this is a good idea. It was what I've been thinking. Oh, look at this. Look at 1984. Look at the way that they're dividing. They're going to divide the world into three great big, entities, and they'll finance everything by fighting border wars against each other forever. And, that's the future that has been spelled out for us, from the Fabians and from all kinds of ways to explain to us where we're headed. And now you see it on a map, you say, oh my God, Trump is just another piece of this puzzle bringing this thing together. But then I'm thinking, it makes more sense to unify North America, especially if you can reach over to Greenland, because it just makes it so less likely that we'd have to have a big war. to me. I mean, and I don't like having Great Britain, bordering the entire northern shelf of the 48 states and Alaska. Canada to me is just it's just a cruel joke on the people that live there, because that's not a free country at all. And the king of England owns 90% of the land there, and the people, unfortunately, especially on the eastern side, not in the west, but in the eastern side, are just as liberal crazy as the liberal crazies of California.
Right.
So what good would it do politically at this time? I don't know, except for, if all of that thinking can be changed by allowing the media to tell the truth to these folks.
I suppose. I don't know. I don't know that I personally want to take on responsibility for all of these other entities. We have enough territories that we have responsibility for that create challenges. President Obama did not attend. Yeah, he did. I saw a picture.
Watched what the body language you watched, Corky? Oh, okay. Yeah, he did. The body language was amazing. Boy, there used to be, I'm talking about, 6 or 7 years ago, there was a woman that was very famous for doing body analysis. I can't remember her name, but it was like somebody's body analysis. And she'd show somebody making a comment, and she would analyze, does this person have signs of being deceitful? Do they know what they're talking about? Are they nervous? And she could just pin that.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen her in a long time.
But body language is so interesting. We have some of these mythologies about body language, and people like the woman you're talking about who really, really understand body language. It's fascinating once you read some of the things that those experts talk about, and you learn a little bit about how to read body language.
We are coming down to the wire, Marcia.
We are.
Let's see. Let's just roll through the rest of them if we can. I don't know how many more.
No, there's tons more, honey. You're not gonna get through them all.
Lady Gaga, Minty of Marina Abramovich. Yeah, the elite satanic high priestess. And Russians got plenty of nuclear generators for the North Pole. That's what I was talking about yesterday. Not nuclear, but the idea that the Arctic is going to be farmed. It's going to be mined. That's the next big human endeavor to keep the elites making money. That's what troubles me about it is, if you combine the entire North American continent into one thing, then there's no way that the common people are ever going to unite enough to throw out the current elites. And so it becomes permanent. And that's the reason why Orwell's 1984 makes sense, is because once they establish these three big control centers around the world, and, INGSOC, the totalitarian socialist government that is imposed on us once this scheme goes into play. Well, we're running out of time, but you can see where I was headed.
Yeah.
Ringo, all about peace and love. All right.
Yeah, peace and love would be wonderful. How do we get there?
And yeah, Soros in the local election. That's where we get these crazy prosecutors and crazy judges, is because they put so much money behind their candidates. And again, electing judges is not a good idea, in my opinion. I think
it's more the common practice than not, though, in most jurisdictions,
especially in the South.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Land and middle grounds. Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave it right there. It's a minute after 12, and we didn't get through everybody's comments today, and there's just too many to hope that I can. But we thank you all.
Lots of great participation today. Thank you so much, folks.
Yes, thank you, Charles and Corky and Raz and Garden Girl, William, Giaramilli, all the sun is here. Hello, all. And so many of our good friends, Charles and Brightmore. All the rest of you guys have a great weekend. We will see you back on Monday. Be sure if you're on Twitter just to sign up for A.W. Finnegan's X page, where he's now available for you to make questions and read his comments and follow his blogging. So, and of course, that's one of the big efforts for me this year is to just keep pushing A.W. Finnegan's book, The Sleeper Agent, into the hands of people that really ought to read it and explain it to us and bring it into our common knowledge, because ignoring the sleeper agent is like ignoring a ticking time bomb in your house.
Yeah.
It's that bad. Okay, that's it. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.